All right, Bulls and Bears, back with another dose. Let's go ahead and get right into it. A lot of economic slash financial news to get caught up on as usual. We still have the financial planners, the economic engineers, central banks, the top 1%, the central planners out there trying to convince everybody that the economy is good, the economy's strong, the consumer's strong, and that inflation's coming down and people are seeing all this relief now because inflation's coming down, right? Even though prices are still going up, everybody's getting ahead now. Well, just the opposite's happening, but that's what they're trying to convince everybody. Let's go ahead and get into some news here that actually underlines, the economic reality here. Out of the Independent, let's start right here. McDonald's profits down 12% as low-income families tighten budgets, with chain hoping a $5 value meal can save sales. So these companies, including McDonald's and many, many other companies, thousands of other companies, raised their prices, blaming it on overall inflation. But then when we looked behind the scenes, we saw that these companies were buying back more stocks, raising dividends for their shareholders, for their stockholders, increasing CEO pay and a lot of upper level management people. Instead of some of them gave raises, so you have that too. But we're being told that this is all because of the higher cost of living. Well, looks like a lot of price gouging when you really dig behind the scenes here. So McDonald's, a big drop off here. McDonald's saw a profit dropping now over the past year. Families are opting out of eating uh, away or at the drive-throughs. Now they've introduced $5 value meal, hoping it's going to bring it back. The fast food chain reported a 12% drop in net income from June of 2023. So from year over year, they dropped. This drop came after low-income customers cut visits due to inflation, forcing many to tighten their budgets. Yeah, due to the high menu prices, which is part of inflation. McDonald's introduced a meal deal in many restaurants across the U.S., allowing customers to buy a McDouble, or a McChicken along with small fries, four-piece McNuggets, and a small fountain drink for $5. Well, I guess that didn't drag them out of the gutter as far as their profits go because people are still choosing to opt out of going to McDonald's here. Will we see them cut their menu prices and maybe stop spending so much money on the things that we just mentioned a few minutes ago? Maybe the CEO doesn't need whatever it is, $50,000 average pay now. I'd have to look it up, but it's a lot. McDonald's is not the only one. We've got other areas showing economic weakness. Let's talk about the music industry and concert sales. One of the favorite thing for people to do is buy tickets and go to concerts here. But this year, and I think we reported these, we've had some big names cancel their concerts here. Black Keys quietly cancel their tour, not just a concert, their entire tour, due to poor ticket sales. Right now, I haven't heard a Black Keys song probably in 10 years, so I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that they haven't had a good song. Is it me? Maybe I just haven't heard the good songs. Um, Another one, J Lo, right? J Lo, Jennifer Lopez cancels multiple dates. Same thing. I haven't heard a J Lo song, a new one. I haven't heard a new J Lo song in maybe 20 years. I don't know. Um, so could it be that? But there's a lot of news out there. New York Times. Are big music tours really in trouble? High profile cancellations have analysts thinking. Big industry insiders say live music is still thriving. Have analysts talking? Yes. I mean, people have to cut back somewhere. Every time I look at a concert video, like on YouTube for like a Metallica concert, packed. Doesn't look like any empty seats in the house. So I think these artists, especially if you're not putting out new, exciting music, you need to just lower your ticket prices. It's like a lot of things. It's like McDonald's. Lower your food prices. If you don't want your profits to drop, lower your food prices. Don't pay the CEO so much. Stop buying back so much stock. Stop paying out so many dividends to the shareholders. Right now, some of you that hold the stock, of course, you don't want that to stop. You want that to go on. But again, most people aren't investors. Most people are just looking for a cheap meal, and they want these restaurants to cut their prices. And they would also like I'm sure they'd like their favorite bands to lower their ticket prices. A lot of it's controlled by Ticketmaster, though. Ticketmaster has all these fees, and the artists oftentimes don't like the concert prices themselves. They're not the ones that actually set the price. You have the promoters, the record companies, the venues, all have to be in agreement. And of course, Ticketmaster taking fees. It's I've been in the music industry in the past, and it's a pretty big mess. Out of Investopedia today, U.S. consumers are increasingly tapped out, so we know it. Why isn't this more widely reported? Why is this not on Fox News or CNN at night? The business segments. Um, a new report showed while the economy continued to demonstrate strength, yeah, the strength of people borrowing money, underlying weaknesses in consumer spending could slow it down. Wow, weaknesses in consumer spending. Even though very few banks are cutting credit, they're still making it easy to borrow money. Not as easy as it used to be, but compared to this point in 2008 when, well, actually we're past that point. Let me rephrase that. We're way past the point in 2008. A long time ago, they should have started tightening. Banks should have started tightening. It should be very difficult to get an increase on your credit card limit or open up a new credit card or get a mortgage. All these things should be very, very difficult. Now, getting a mortgage isn't difficult. Qualifying for the home based on the high price, that's the difficult part. But most people are still getting qualified for a mortgage. It wasn't like this in 2008, right? Banks stopped lending. This was before the bailouts. Banks stopped lending. Very difficult to get a loan. Prices crashed as a result. And now banks are still loaning out money. And this is why we have not seen the bubble go bust. Very simple. When consumers can no longer borrow money, we're done. The economy's done. So the banks are making sure that the economy keeps, quote unquote, growing. I'll take a look at this here. Speaking of spending and money we don't have and debt, we know the national debt just hit 35 trillion. Look at this. Janet Yellen, she wants $78 trillion to fight climate change. Something like 3 trillion a year over many, many years. And supposedly she's going to stop climate change. Well, look at all the money that's already been thrown at this. And every year the disasters just seem to get worse, don't they? You think throwing a bunch of money at it's going to stop it? Do you think they're really going to make any changes to whatever is causing this? There's many theories out there on what's causing it. And some people say the climate's always changing, that it's just a big money grab, just a big media made up, scam, like a lot of other things. U.S. banks warn of disaster and brace for higher delinquencies despite rate cut expectations. We talked about that in our last report. Banks are preparing for something big. Banks already do not have to have any money in reserves. That's another thing that's been happening since 2020. That was never reversed. It was supposed to be just temporary. That's another reason why the bubbles have not went bust. Right? The housing bubble has not went bust. A lot of bubbles and prices have not crashed yet. Why? Because of the banks and people able to borrow money and spend borrowed money. Bad news for Jerome Powell here. There's a low probability that either Trump or Harris will reappoint Jerome Powell as Fed chair. That's a political strategist saying that. And you know how much difference that makes? Zero difference. Why? Because these people don't make decisions. Jerome Powell's not making any decisions at the Fed, I can guarantee you. All you have to do is watch one of his news conferences where every question that's asked of him, he reads down at his script. He's reading a script. These people are just puppets or front men for the system. That's what they are. I don't think he has any input, any influence on the rate decisions, the decision to load up their balance sheet or drop their balance sheet. I think he's just reading what he's told to read. Just like a lot of the news people, they're just reading what they're told to read. They're not giving you their opinion. They're not giving you their take on anything. They're reading a script. Even politicians, you see them up there. We had the presidential speech a couple weeks ago. Did you watch it? I watched part of it, and every moment of the few moments that I watched, he was looking up like this, like the prompter was way up in the corner. Right? Usually they try to put the prompter close to the camera, so it looks like they're looking into the camera, like they'll have it like right above the lens, so they're looking at it like this. No, this was like this. 'Cause I think the screen was so big and the letters were so big, he had to look up in the corner. It's just completely ridiculous. Like so many people out there are just reading what they're told to say, and it's pretty easy to see if you just pay a little bit of attention here. So I don't think it has any bearing whatsoever on the direction of the economy. But of course, the news, they are talking about it. Consumer sentiment, 8-month low. That's the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report. Sentiment report. Of course, people are getting tapped out. People, the savings rate, what dropped again last month from the month prior, and it's just going to get worse. More people emergency borrowing from their 401k and retirements. They had to implement a new program to allow people to borrow money, more money out of their 401k. What else here? A couple more things to get into today. Oh yeah, I think we talked about the big surge in hiring for IRS agents, and the cover story was going to be that all these new agents, 80 something thousand, were only going to go after the rich and the top 10%. So it was pretty interesting, when you read that, like that many agents are needed to go after the top 10%. Look at this, and speaking of broke people, even IRS agents having a tough time. 5,800 IRS employees and contractors owe nearly $50 million in unpaid taxes. More than half of them have not been required to agree to a payment plan. So even the agents themselves are having a tough time keeping up with the cost of living. Same thing, they're just doing what they're told. They're just following orders, trying to collect money for the system, even though they themselves are also falling behind because they're regular people as well. I would think that they would be paid pretty well. I don't know what the average wage is for an IRS agent here. Let's take a look here. Wow. So here's the average pay by state. California, these are the top paid states. California, $64,000 annually. $62,000 in New Hampshire. 61,000 in Vermont. 60,000 in Maine. Wow, what's going on in the upper northeast of the U.S. there? So not really a lot. 60,000 in California. That's basically poverty. I mean, unless you're a single person with hardly any expenses. But if you have any sort of family, 60,000, you're not even going to barely make it. Right? You'd have to work a second job, gig economy job, side hustle, and all that. So yeah, IRS agents also overdue taxes, not just behind in their payments, but overdue taxes. You would think that an employee of the agency would have their taxes caught up. Very interesting, folks. And I know a lot of people that work for banks too, also not doing so well. And banks typically pay okay, but folks, it's everybody in all industries. Um, as far as the bottom 70%. Top 10, 20, 30% still doing good, especially the top 10%, and most especially the top 1%. Folks, it's just going to keep going. It's going to keep, the wealth transfer is going to keep funneling money to the top of the pyramid, folks. So until we get some sort of collapse, correction, change in the system where somebody pulls the plug on this money creation, we're not really going to see much of a change. So brace for it, because something big is going to drop this year. We've already seen massive chaos here in July. What's going to go on in August, September, and October? October is the month I'm concerned about. So fasten your seatbelts, folks. Stack, get ready, have some emergency supplies, some food, some cash set aside, and brace, because this thing is tapping out. The economy is reaching the end of the lifeline. They're looking for all kinds of new ways to keep it going. They've got massive debt forgiveness. We talked about the student loan debt. They want to forgive now 5 million people. We've got home buying assistance programs in all 50 states now. We've got the non-bank lenders out there buying most of the mortgages to allow the housing market, to prevent the housing market from crashing. It's not really helping prices go up because prices are so overpriced right now, but it is preventing it from crashing for now. But anything could come in here and throw a wrench into the gears here and stop this whole thing, and be on the lookout, and look out below for that, everybody. All right. What do you think about today's report? The IRS agents. What else did we start with here today? McDonald's losing profits, even though they got the $5 value meal. That didn't bring enough people back to stop that news from coming out. Canceled concerts. Have you seen any concerts lately? It's pretty expensive, right? And Jerome Powell not being reappointed is not really going to affect anything. Anyways, everybody keep stacking. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Bye for now. Peace.